Glad to be in. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm very glad to be in community with you today. If we have not met before, which is possible, my name is Claire Byrne, use she, her pronouns, and I'm the community manager for RSA US. So you may have seen my name in your inbox before or at an event, but we may or may not have actually had a conversation. So hopefully we will today. And I'm joining you from the Cowichan Valley on the traditional unceded territory of the Quitsun people on Vancouver Island. And today is National Truth and Reconciliation Day. So just to mark that, I didn't get to go to the protest because obviously working and being with you all today. But as folks are joining us, yeah, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. If you've just joined us, we're just kind of getting settled in, and we're going to jump into some wonderful stories from our guest fellows who are with us today. We usually like to start our gatherings with some kind of connection prompt, very informal. It's just a way to kind of get to know each other a little bit better, see where your head is at today, what maybe story or experience you'd love to share with us. So you'll see on your screen that we have a connection prompt for you that is what or who is bringing you joy right now. And it could be a person, could be a thing, could be a work project. Feel free to share with us. I'm going to be super cliched and say that my almost 21-month-old is bringing me joy right now because she is both an absolute monster and a delight in equal measure, which is a wonderful combination. Long may it continue. She knows her own mind, so she's definitely making me smile and bringing me joy. So I'm looking forward to reading your comments and whatever you want to share in the chat. So we've designed today's space to be really, really informal, connective, like full of kind of curiosity and hopefully some new connections and sparks of ideas for you all. Hope you'll walk away having met someone new, maybe learned something fresh, or maybe felt inspired to plug in more deeply to this wonderful community and network of change makers. If you have any questions, and I always say no question is a silly question, just feel free to send me a message, my wonderful colleague Tony a message, or Emily, another colleague of mine who's on the call today, and we'll do our best to answer your questions, either privately or we can follow up with you later on. So on that note, I'll pass to my lovely colleague Tony, and over to you, Tony. Thank you so much for listening to me, everyone.
Thanks so much, Claire. Hitting all kinds of different buttons and hoping that I'm doing them in the right order and doing the right things. Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Shoala. My pronouns are she and her. I am joining today from Northwest Ohio, which is the traditional lands of the Potawatomi, Kickapoo, Kiaskia, Peoria, and Miamia peoples. And in addition to being really intentional about the content that we create for RSA events, we are always aspiring to show up in ways that will facilitate inclusive, safe, authentic, collaborative, and kind spaces that promote learning, respect, and support our purpose. So to solidify this, we have on the screen the ways that we are aspiring to show up. We always encourage folks at the beginning of our sessions to take a look at them, make sure you're in agreement with them as far as caring for ourselves and for each other in these ways. Also, feel free to pop in the chat if there's anything that we missed. Also, if you need be at any point, you're welcome to chat to me. I'll be doing more stuff in the background as far as transitioning slides and things like that. And with that, we are ready to kick things off by transitioning over to my colleague, Emily, who's going to introduce us to some amazing fellows today who really bring to life the depth, diversity, and experience within this amazing network of changemakers. So over to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate that. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces on the line, some new faces on the line. For those of you I have not met yet, my name is Emily Weiner. I am wearing a couple of different hats as I sit here today. One of which is I have been a fellow of the RSA for a little over 10 years. Excuse me. So I come to this perspective with a very similar perspective as all of you do, as what does it mean to be a fellow? I talk a lot about the power of fellowship, the power of our community. I am also part of this amazing RSA US team, this small but mighty team that is very discreetly focused on our US fellows and cultivating and curating that community. And it's been a privilege to work with Claire and Tony and Alexa, who's not with us today, to try to really support and uplift a whole bunch of other folks in our community that you're all doing really cool, really different, amazing things. And I run my own business, a company called The Connectors. So I am naturally inherently a dot connector. Feel free to reach out to me anytime to talk RSA, just have a good conversation, or if you have any questions about fellowship, those are all different things that I can talk to you about at some point, either here or elsewhere. Today, though, I'm here because I'm so excited to tee up this powerhouse lineup that you see on your screen right now. And because we have 6 amazing people, I'm going to stop talking a little bit and get straight into it. But just for a little context setting, thank you to our US-based fellows for agreeing to share their work in the world and how they're showing up and what their journey is. We are tight on time and want to get deep into conversation as fast as we can. So I'm going to let each of our guests introduce themselves, however they would like to show up in this group. And I'll have about 3 minutes to set some context about who they are and what they care about and what they're doing and how all of us might be able to play a role in their work going forward. In that vein, I'll start with my buddy Barry, my newest buddy, Barry. Barry, if you could, for the group, I'll start with you, ask you to say who you are, what you do, what you're working on, which is some really cool stuff. And has the RSA been helpful in your work, or are there ways that the RSA can engage with your work and fellows can engage with your work going forward? And is there anything that any of us on this line can do to help amplify your work?
All in 3 minutes or less.
All in 3 minutes or less, no pressure, being our first person.
Got it.
Thanks, my friend.
Okay, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see everybody. So I have been a fellow since 2007. And in 2009, a good friend of mine and I decided that we needed to work together. And he was the director of the Kresge Hearing Research Institute at the University of Michigan. And he had been studying hearing loss since the late 80s. And what I had been doing is trying to figure out a way that I could take my background in business strategy and design into life sciences to help accelerate the work of people like Joe, my co-founder, from the lab into the real world. The short story got very, very long. So for the last 15 years, that's been my job. So I am a translational researcher that has taken this lovely nutritional supplement that was developed in a medical lab, from the medical lab through translational research to now it's in the market. It's been in the market since 2019. So what I'm going to do now is accelerate to answering Emily's question, is there anything that the RSA Fellows can do to help? What's interesting about that question for me right now is that we were in the United States, we moved to the EU in 2012, where I became a principal investigator on a 4-year European Commission grant that got us into test market in 2017. Then we moved back to the US, and we've been here since 2019. Now we're coming back to the EU. And it turns out that a lot of our close colleagues are in the UK. And so we are in the process now of legalizing a Danish entity for EU distribution of our product. We are involved with a UK agency to do digital marketing. And we're also running what's called a phase 4 open label, single arm observational public health study, where you can test our product to see how well it works for you. It's an oral therapeutic that keeps your hearing and keeps you from losing any more hearing, and it also can restore your hearing, and you can swallow it. So that's the end. Glad to be here.
Barry, I'm impressed. Brilliant. I first of all, you did it in less than 3 minutes. What I will say is I had the privilege of talking with Barry a little bit earlier this summer, and all I can say is sound bites is a mind blow, right? I cannot encourage you all enough to learn more about this. It is something we should all be literally shouting from the rooftops, and no pun intended, because you're about hearing loss. But it is so extraordinary what you are doing, and also the journey that you've gone through to get here and the rigor. Yes, Tony, that was a mouthful, but to simplify it, the journey that Barry's gone through is so rigorous to the scientific process, that it's so clear what you're doing. And I love everything about it. So Barry, thank you.
Well, thank you. My ears are burning. Um, I will say a couple of words that'll help people understand what this is. Audiology, since the end of World War II, has been focused on testing people's hearing because they are hearing impaired and amplifying the sounds that they cannot hear so that they can hear them again. What we do is on the other side of the eardrum. It's auditory neuroscience. So it's all about the biochemistry and the transition or the transduction of those sound waves into electric signals that go into the brain and come back again into the ears through these lovely nerves that we have to keep alive. So I can geek you out and nerd you out. You will all go to sleep over this. I can guarantee that. But at the end of the day, people want to keep the hearing they have, and that's what we can do.
This is such a perfect way to start, because this is an example of how unbelievably different all 6 of you are on this session today. And this is just a microcosm of the power of fellowship and why this community is so important. Barry, thank you. I'm going to move us along, but we are going to get into breakout sessions in a bit. So any of you that get lucky enough to go into a room with Barry, ask him to geek out, because trust me, it's a fun ride. With that, I'm going to transition us over to Chris. Chris Foreman, would you mind sharing again? Who are you?
Sure.
What do you do? How can this community amplify and support you? Or how has this community been helpful to you already?
Right. Hello, everyone. Really pleased to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I've been a fellow, I think, since 2016. And when I moved across the pond from England to the US, I expressed an interest in deliberative democracy. And the CEO at the time said, become a fellow and do something. And the RSA has been great in giving me a context. So going back a little bit, I am a scientist, theoretical physicist to start off with. And I realized that the governments weren't listening, to people about climate change, to scientists. I thought the evidence would persuade politicians, but that didn't work. And so I tried to become an activist. And then I realized the activists were as blinkered as the politicians a lot of the time, very single-minded. And so I'm thinking, hang on a minute, the problem here is that people just aren't listening to each other. And the trouble, of course, is that listening is a thermodynamic process. It takes effort and energy, okay? So when we think about something like voting, I think of it as a bit like candy, and if you've read that book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Kahneman, he says that candy, voting, the sound bites, it all appeals to your sort of animal brain, your emotions, fear these people, hate those people, this guy's an idiot, I'm great. It's all very short term. It doesn't encourage deep thinking. Whereas if you move to something like deliberation, and I assume everybody's heard of citizens' assemblies, that's what we mean by deliberation. That engages the slow brain. People have to put effort and energy in to really listen to each other. And so in order to move past this block between activist, government, industry, the public, I promote deliberative democracy. And what we do in the Deliberation Gateway, which is a network of the RSA, is we try to connect different parts of society, say finance, health, or transport, even religion. Can we help all these different parts and sectors of society use structured public conversations to accelerate their work? And what we do in my little team, there's maybe like 2 or 3 of us who meet regularly, is we try to find opportunities where we can sort of catalyze public deliberations in specific places. So if you want to make the world a better place, then help me connect to different industries where we can think about how public conversations within those industries could transform that industry. And right now we're working on pension funds. where we're going to try and get pension funds to talk to members of the public to help steer where trillions of dollars go. And we're not even going to ask permission from the government. It's none of their business. It's private money. So can we change the world that way? That's me in a nutshell. I'm happy to hear any questions or whatever you've got. So thank you.
Well, that's a bit of a mind blow.
Yeah,
Chris,
totally.
amazing. I love the Deliberation Gateway. Thank you for putting a link in there, Tony, because that was going to be the first thing I
Oh,
was
yeah.
going to ask about.
Thank you.
What specifically can we all do to amplify this work? How can we get engaged with you right now?
Okay. Well, couple of things. I think one is if you are like in an industry, if you're say in some sort of institution or for example, I don't know, the Royal Society of Chemistry, we're trying to put on a deliberation about regulation. So if I can connect to someone in the Royal Society of Chemistry, then that gives sort of kudos to anything that comes along. So if you've got links, connections to particular institutions that could help or field a public deliberation and make it happen, then that's something that we need to hear. Also, just come in and feedback on how I'm coming across in the media, how the website looks, things like that. Just to give us some feedback on how we're approaching it. It's really difficult to talk to all other professionals about their field and say, hey, we've got a way of making your field better. That's not necessarily easy. So yeah, and anything like that, any kind of connections or just feedback on how it's coming across, very helpful.
Brilliant. Eva in the chat, Chris, as we're done talking, go look at the chat. Eva's already offering to share some contacts and we'll send. So
Great.
Chris, if you want to throw your contact information in the chat, that would be awesome so that folks know how to get in touch with you.
Okay.
Thank you. Speakers, I realize I led you astray. Melissa, I said you would be number 2. You're actually our number 3 coming up. So I'm going to move us along over to Melissa. Can you share with us, who are you? What do you do? And how has the RSA either helped you on your journey, or what can we do to help you on your journey? And how can fellows get engaged in your work?
Great. So hello, everyone. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and I am a coach and a community builder. So I mostly specialize in supporting creatives find actualization in their work. And that kind of looks like self-expression and, being dynamic, but also, especially nowadays, I'm hearing a lot of people just wanting job security and to feel like something is sustainable. So while one-on-one coaching is sort of the foundation of my coaching business, I always love running groups, and I'm about to kick off a 10-week group program tomorrow for people who are jobs searching. Kind of my motto is generally like doing some of the hard things that we sometimes are asked to do alone, like job searching. That takes a lot of motivation, that can be done better together, or at least kind of have that mutual support. I'm also foolishly or unfoolishly starting to embark upon writing a book, and the working title right now is The Fluid Career, which is this idea that we are entering this period where we don't really know what's going to be valued in our economy. And, I think a lot of people are worried about AI and layoffs and automation. And so part of the idea is almost like taking a page out of people who have been running multifaceted careers. I assume actually a lot of the RSA fellows probably fall into that category of someone who's like, does their main thing, but they're the kind of person that has extracurriculars and other side projects going on. Kind of the argument being like when we create multiplicity for ourselves, we kind of hedge our bets, we diversify, and we, have more sustainable careers that way, more resilient careers. So kind of an ask, I guess, would be if anyone's heard of any articles or resources or content that comes to mind when you hear about that general topic of how do you create a sustainable career that, some people use the word portfolio career. But I guess I'm really thinking about like, how do we keep skilling up? How do we keep connected? And kind of exercising these practices that just help us be more than one thing. And yeah, I've just started my kind of post here as the ambassador in Portland. So what I've done so far is just kind of connect with people on one-on-one calls. And it's been nice to just get to, I work mostly on Zoom. And so part of me signing up to do the ambassador role was like, I want to talk to people in person. And so we're gearing up for an in-person meetup this fall. And I think there's a lot of enthusiasm around it because, yeah, there's great people doing exciting things and people just still classically want to get together IRL. So that's me.
Melissa, that's amazing. Thank you. I love every aspect of that. I think everyone, whether you're job seeking or not, is going through this very interesting transition time. The world is increasingly unknowable, uncertain, and unpredictable. And I feel like that has definitely, that might resonate with all of us. That I certainly resonate with you. I'm showing up here with quite a number of hats on right now, right? I'm a fellow. I run my own business. I'm part of this RSA US team. We all have lots of parts of our identities. And I know I'm asking each of you to show up with like one specific slice in 3 minutes or less to introduce yourselves to the group. But thanks for that also aperture reminder that all of us come to fellowship with a lot of different parts of ourselves. And I, as a consultant and coach and somebody that does that too, like a lot of what you're saying is resonating. So thank you for all of that.
Thanks, Emily.
I appreciate that. I'm going to move us along. And again, after we have these quick introductions, our goal is to then get into breakout groups to have more engaged conversations. So as I zoom us along into the next step, let's move it over to my friend Jessica, who I also had the privilege of meeting. And we both had big birthdays right around the same time of each other. So Jessica, and she just launched a new Substack. She's got a lot of really cool stuff going on. So Jessica, over to you. Who are you? What do you do? How can this fellowship help you? And what are you doing in fellowship right now?
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And it's been really interesting to learn about the cool projects that everyone's working on. They all really resonate with me. So this is a very great event. So my name's Jessica Aviva, and in 2001, I started a company called the Fruition Coalition, and it was started to build the capacity of nonprofit organizations. So over the past 20 plus years, it's blossomed and expanded in different ways. So currently I still do that capacity building work, but also do a lot of work to help people who are working in the nonprofit sector to stay focused on what matters most and to infuse joy and pleasure into their work. So along those lines, I've recently started a couple of new things. As Emily mentioned, I just started a Substack, and it's called Nonprofit Hedonists, and it is a very light newsletter that is encouraging people who work in the nonprofit sector who are feeling stressed out and burned out and overworked to focus on how joy and pleasure can help them reconnect with what really matters and why they got into doing that work in the first place. I also started a podcast recently. It is called Legends from the Nonprofit Crypt, and it is dark humor, which explores horror stories from working in the nonprofit sector. And they all have an ending where the protagonist gets everything works out in their favor. So happy endings there. I also recently published a book called The Joy of Feminist Leadership. So my work is also focused on feminist leadership and supporting and connecting feminist leaders across sectors. In addition to that, I have a housing policy fellowship based in Pennsylvania. So with that work, I'm focused on developing a toolkit to protect and expand the fair housing rights of people in rural communities in Pennsylvania that could definitely be applicable in other communities. And I also recently started a school for people who work in the nonprofit sector called Community Changemaker School. It's a bit somewhat fun and informal learning space with some structured classes, but then also some opportunities to connect and organize with each other. I'm also very interested in social connections, and my dissertation focused on how women leaders in particular engage their similarities and differences as they think about and practice solidarity and progressive social movement organization. So most of my work is very community-based and community-driven. I'm really excited that along with Dr. Rashida Watts, who was not able to be here with us today, we'll be co-facilitating the Gender Equity Network going forward. And we have an event coming up on October 14th, which all people are here, and everyone else is very much encouraged and welcome to join us. The work of the Gender Equity Network going forward will be shaped by the people who participate. So at that meeting, we're going to have a lot of conversations about what the network will look like going forward. So I would encourage you to be there. And then we also have some events planned for November and January where I will be sharing some insights as well as Dr. Rashida. So we look forward to seeing you there as well.
Thank you, Jessica. And when you get a second, we've popped a few links in the chat. I just haven't been able to switch screens. My brain is not good enough to facilitate and get links at the same time. So can you pop the link to your new Substack in the chat when you get a second? That would be amazing. Thank you. Highly recommend, and so excited about the Gender Equity Network. Do you want to just share like 10 more seconds about that and like what your vision is for what that's going to look like moving forward?
Sure. So because it's sort of being relaunching and being revamped, we really want to hear from other fellows about what they're hoping to contribute and or get out of participating in the network. So I think what it will look like is going to come out of that conversation on October 14th. And we'll be sharing some updates in Circle and as well as on the RSA website to let everyone know the direction we'll be going in.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along to keep the trains running, let's go talk to Christabel, who I've just met today. And you have such a cool story and a lot of things to tell us. Who are you? What are you up to? How has RSA Fellowship, helped you, or what can we do to help you? And how can fellows get engaged in your work?
You may have to guide me with some of the questions because there's so much to say. My brain is full with all of this awesome stuff that I'm hearing. I want to talk to everybody after this, but I have less than 10 minutes now, right? So my name is Christabel Insia-Bwedi. I am the host. I'm not the host anymore. I am the founder of your podcast Pipeline, which is a masterclass and coaching for people who want to basically express their voice, their ideas, and really sharpen those ideas and sharpen that experience through their leadership, through their thought leadership. And I'm really struggling with the idea of expressing that because maybe you're overthinking it or you're not quite sure how to express it, and really leveraging podcasts to do that. Now, why am I doing that, or how do I do that? It's because my background is actually in journalism and podcasting. I actually became a fellow in 2021. Somebody here will correct me. When I was working at Spotify as an executive there, and was asked to talk about storytelling and equity. And my heartbeat, the thing that drives the work that I do, is around storytelling for connection, storytelling for equity, and allowing people to amplify their voices. So as a broadcast journalist, I worked for NPR, and now I'm based in Los Angeles. I've been there for a while, have American-born kids. We know the deal. And I've been there since 2007. I ran shows for NPR and worked very much in that public media space. And the one thing that I became very well known for was basically putting people on the mic, the people who live those experiences, because they're the experts. They're the people who can advance conversation. And so that's really been the driving heart of what I do. And so it's really been about, how do you amplify the voices of people who, we use the term underrepresented, but really there are a lot of very thoughtful people out there. And I since left Spotify and launched your podcast Pipeline. And I say host is because I also used to host shows, and I had a podcast called Audio Diaspora. But I really am focusing on your podcast Pipeline because I've found that there are so many people who are extremely thoughtful and have a sense of leadership. And in this moment of wanting to have public conversations to promote what they want to do, or create really deep relationships and conversations with their communities. I'm as a storyteller, I help people draw the story out. I'm the person who will listen to you and go, oh, you want to say that? Okay, this is how we're going to say it. And then I coach people to say that using their voice, their own voice, right? And we're basically leveraging podcasts because podcasting is a very powerful way of getting your voice across, either as a host or either as a guest. So I leverage all of that experience to do that. Have I run under the 3 minutes? Because I could keep going, but I'm going to.
You have done beyond well. I am impressed with all of you today. I thought I'd have to be much more of a hard ass on these meetings today. You're all doing brilliantly. Christabel, this is really cool. And I think, I started by saying a lot of what I love about fellowship is hearing from such diverse voices. I love that that is your work, amplifying and uplifting the voices that we may not hear otherwise, and helping to build those connections for folks. Look, I run a company called The Connectors. I'm all about connections, right? I think the value today, you got a couple folks in the chat as well who have said like, oh, I'm working with youth in this way through music, and my young team is listening to podcasts right now. This is absolutely resonating with all of us. And the work is crucial, especially in a time where we are more disconnected and fractured than ever before. I think this is a real huge thing that we need to be focusing on to create bridges between folks that you may not have heard from otherwise.
Yeah, and I just want to add that, I think in this, having dealt with look at, as someone who really looks at the creator economy, and people like to talk about that a lot, there's a lot of noise, right? And people say, well, how can I grow my audience? And the audience is you build deeper connection with content and with intention about what you say. And as someone who has built creator programs and supported creators in that way, I'm convinced that that's what it is, which is why I have the workshops and the master classes. So yeah.
And I know this is scratching the surface, but we're doing a program with you next month through the RSA. Is that correct?
I am hosting a Q&A with Esther Armah, where we talk about storytelling for connection and really look at the idea of what happens when we stop framing harm as a conversation, right? That leads to that listening that we're talking about, and how you put that action behind the listening in order to basically make the world better for many of us. And I should also say that I'm actually doing a masterclass in October through your podcast pipeline if anyone wants to do that. So if anyone wants to join, I'll be sending out information, and please spread the word.
And that link to that session you're doing next month on storytelling as a strategy just miraculously ended up in the chat. Thank you, Claire. It's like we planned it or something. And Mitch, very funny. Shouldn't we be talking about conflict? Okay, maybe. I saw that chat come in. Christabel, thank you. I'm going to then move last and most certainly not least to Cindy, who I had just finally had the privilege of meeting in person today, but have emailed, and I know you're up to some really amazing stuff. Can you share with us, Cindy, who you are, what you do? We're going to go in a totally different direction now. And how Fellowship has been able to support you, or what you can get from Fellowship, and how this amazing group of smart, incredible people can amplify your work.
Well, first, I absolutely have to, I have to thank all of the wonderful people who are joining us today from all over. I'm very excited that you've chosen to be here. And I would also like to especially thank Claire, and Emily and Tony for getting this all together. And my fellow speakers today, you are all absolutely amazing. And you've made my job incredibly hard, because now I have to follow you. So, no, it's really wonderful to hear what everybody is up to, and very articulate about the amazing stuff you're doing. I am a musical dramatist and a playwright and a writer. And I have been a fellow for about 3 years, I think, possibly more. I kind of get very involved in my work, and a lot of externals in my life wind up falling by the wayside. And that's one of them. I can't keep track of how long I've been a member. But what drew me to the RSA was the fact that it was an organization that went across various disciplines. I really liked that, because so many organizations, they're just for musicians or just for theater people or playwrights or whatever. I really liked the idea of it being broader, because I think when we interconnect with other disciplines and other industries, that's really when a lot more important connections happen. And especially the fact that the RSA is international was extremely exciting to me, and still is. And so what do? I write musicals, and I write plays, and I write books. And the amazing thing about working in that field, which I absolutely love, is that we sort of fly under the radar. Other people in other professions are right out there on the surface. They're coming right at you with, here's what we do, here's how we're trying to reach you. Art is a very unifying force in the world, and it's a very important force for drawing us back to our own humanity. And by working with the arts, I'm able to get messages through to people in a way that they might not otherwise be open to accepting them. My work has always focused on, I hate to use the term virtues, but each of the stories that I tell has some sort of a virtue as a takeaway for the audience. My first musical, which I was astounded to win a state award in Massachusetts for, was about an estuary. I actually had to go look up what an estuary was, because I had no idea. But somebody said, you should write about the estuary. Okay. I knew it had something to do with water. But anyway, it wound up being very successful, and I was able to turn it into something that would draw people's attention and raise awareness about the fragility of our ecosystem. I also did a musical about Joshua James, who is the de facto father of the U.S. Coast Guard. And the message in that for my audiences was that James did not ever focus on what he could not do, on the people whom he could not save, but on those who he could. And so it certainly for me personally, and hopefully for my audience, reminded them not to focus on what we can't do, but what we can do. That's really where we're going to make the difference in the world. And the cornerstone of all my philosophies has to do with helping others, with volunteering. I would love us to create a generosity-based society together. And by that, I mean giving. When you want something, don't approach it by how can I get that? Ask yourself first, what can I give? Find some organization or group and say, what can I do for them? In fact, you can even ask them, hi, what can I do for you? It is incredibly disarming. People aren't used to that. And it opens them up, it drops barriers, gets people to think in different directions. And so much of my collaborative work is based on that, finding people or groups and saying, what can I do for you? In my work as a playwright, very often right now, there are issues because local theaters can't afford to pay the incredibly high royalty fees. So if they're a smaller community theater, I'm happy to let them do my work for free and keep whatever profits they can, because those small and regional theaters are so, so, so vital to our arts network in this country. Anyway, I'll make a quick shameless plug. A book that I've recently written, which is backwards here, but I promise you when you read it, it'll be forwards, is Making Bread Out of Straw. And it basically outlines my work and how I got from point A to point B, which, unlike some other people, did not involve having a lot of wonderful support networks or having a lot of money behind me or connections. It really involved starting from nothing. I was my piano teacher's very, very worst student. She couldn't stand me. And yet in 2010, I wound up performing at the White House. So anyway, anything is possible. And I've probably run over my time limit. So I would love to thank the RSA community for supporting me by helping me network and connect with folks.
Brilliant. I love the solutions-oriented approach. So folks have tagged you in a couple things in the chat. Cindy, I'll say, take a glance at that when you get a second, and let us know how we can find our way in. I think, anyone who becomes a fellow of the RSA has a perspective and a point of view that is solutions-based. We're all here to do something. We're not here to just complain about something. And so, I think that probably I'm speaking on behalf of everybody here, but I think that solutions-based approach is really important, and doing it in such an accessible way, like through the arts, really valuable. And your book didn't look backwards to all of us. It looked perfect. So with that, I am going to kick it back over to my colleague, Claire, who's going to shepherd us into the next portion of our time together. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. What a wonderful group of folks and humans doing amazing work in the world. And like I said in the chat earlier, it feels like sound storytelling, supporting people on their journeys felt like a couple of common threads through your various experiences and what you shared. So thank you for that. And before I forget to say it, for those of you who are on the call with us and you want to share your work with the world and you want to participate in a future one of these events, just send me a message, send me a DM on the Zooms now. Happy to chat. And we love giving folks a platform and amplifying your work and helping you in some small way. So I'm going to shut up shortly, but I just wanted to say we're going to break out into small little groups, and we'll give you all about maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll just kind of come back together and kind of wrap up on some of the things that we have coming up for the US team, ways to engage, ways to plug in. So I know Tony is going to pop a slide on our screen here so that you have just a sense of what we're doing. We're just going to have a very, very chill conversation, breakouts for up to 10 minutes. And we have some prompts for you, like what you're most excited about right now, how this community can help you. So maybe a riff on an ask and offer, but in your small groups, we can chat. And I think our wonderful Zoom wizard, Tony, will press the magic button and we will get to chat. Amazing. And I'm going to pop my contact details in here as well. But yeah, feel free to chime in with the chat of any reflections from your breakouts. Hopefully we'll do more of these in future events. But I just wanted to kind of wrap us up and wrap our time together up with a little bit more about the RSA US and kind of what we have going on over the next couple of months and near future. And so Tony, if you wouldn't mind just sharing one or two slides whenever you get the second. I know you're multitasking like a boss over there. Thank you so much. So a lot of folks who, when they come to the RSA as an organization, are like, where do I even start? This is a lot. How do I plug in? How do I meet people that are maybe in my line of work or in a different line of work? And so a lot of our job as the RSA US team is kind of like wayfinders. That's how I describe myself a lot of the time. So these are some examples of ways to connect and create change within our network. Storytelling is something that we're a big fan of, and that takes many different forms. We believe in amplifying voices of fellows sharing your work, for example, like this in our time together today, but also through fellow spotlights that we run on our social media channels, shout outs in our newsletter. We have a spot in our newsletter where you can share your news. Maybe you're seeking feedback on a piece of work, or you want folks to complete a survey or whatever that may be, or share like a win, give yourself a clap on the back. We are happy to give shout outs and to share your work and be that like Emily mentioned before, kind of like the connective tissue or connecting those dots for you all. Monthly events, we do run virtual monthly, we call them salons. We hope that these are really just like places to come together and take off your day-to-day hat and just really step into this curious space and explore topics that you may or may not have had the chance to tap into before. And they are curated by our fellows. Like, we co-design these with fellows, like Christabel, for example, who we have a wonderful storytelling event coming up next month. We've worked with Christabel to design that. Thematic networks or micro communities. Chris, who you heard from earlier on, who leads our Deliberation Gateway network, and also Jessica and Dr. Rashida, who are relaunching our Gender Equity Network. These are amazing spaces to jump into conversation, events, topics with people who maybe are very passionate or drawn to a particular topic or theme or emerging area of work. And there's so much that you can dip into on our website around this. So we have 3 networks in the US, our Augmented Society Network. I did see Zoe Camper on the call briefly earlier. I don't know if you're still here, Zoe, based out of Las Vegas, so hello. And also we've Chris from the Deliberation Gateway Network, and Jessica Viva and Dr. Rashida from the Gender Equity Network. We are also hoping to explore some more work around social connections in this space, because it seems like such a hot topic and so important to bring folks together. Regional hubs, we have you can get involved in place or in like more localized ways of kind of tapping into our network. We've just recently welcomed some wonderful new ambassadors. Andrea, I see you're on the call, so hello, in Seattle, and Melissa in Portland, and also Tej, who is based in Austin, Texas, but also travels around a lot. And we have ambassadors distributed across the US. We're trying to kind of always looking at places where we can grow our program, so feel free to reach out to me. And then last but not least is mentoring, which I think one thing is so powerful about this network is the multidisciplinary nature of fellows who are joining this community, and the vast differences in age and experience through to where people are at on their journey. So there's lots of different ways to plug in and get involved. And some of the things that we have coming up next, and then I will stop talking and wrap things up, are we're kind of rebranding this event to call it the Connection Session or the Connection Sessions, and where we really just want to focus on building connections within our community. We've heard lots over the past while that folks are just really hungry for that and want to know the company that they keep and who are your peers in this network. Like Jessica mentioned, the Gender Equity Network has an event coming up October 14th. I know that Tony is going to pop some links in the chat so you can sign up. Connect on Circle, which is, I always describe as like if Facebook and LinkedIn had a baby, and this is the social platform that has it all for our fellows in our community to learn about what's going on, have you ask offers and needs kind of market, and lots of ways to just connect with folks across the globe. Social connections in our community of practice. Tony and Emily and Alexa, my wonderful colleagues, have been doing absolutely amazing work in this space. And there's a lot of sessions coming up for any of you who work in social capital, social mobility, social connections, and building out a community of practice in this space. And some in-person gatherings that just happened recently in Boston, and upcoming work in Baltimore. Going to start losing my voice soon. I feel like I'm just chatting a lot. Sorry, bear with me. And you can connect with me. Inbox is always open. I'm happy to chat to you all about whatever questions you may have around the fellowship community. And then lastly, we're hoping to launch some listening sessions on the first Friday of every month, where it's just come hang out, share maybe what you're struggling with, how I can help you, things that have been challenging or frustrating for you as a fellow, things that have been amazing for you as a fellow, and office hours as well. So those are some things that are coming up. And I will share it in the chat, is Christabel's event that is happening in November. Obviously our Gender Equity Network event, if it hasn't already been popped in the chat, probably has. Yeah. And anything else that, if you have ideas for events next year that you would like to curate with us, if you would love to speak at the next one of these that we're hoping to run in early December, just reach out. Don't be a stranger. Share your emails in the chat. And I'm going to stop talking and pass over to Tony and Emily if you have anything else that you would like to say.
I don't want to step on Tony. I also know she's juggling everything at once. So I think she's operating in the background, but here with us. Thank you all for hanging out with us today. I'm happy to stay on for a couple extra minutes, Claire, if that's all right. We can stay on if any of you want to chat a little bit longer, but we want to be respectful and mindful of time because we have less than a minute left. We're here. Also, there was a lot of good resources that were delivered in the chat today and links and that sort of stuff. Tony, I'm a little bit nodding to you, and Claire, but we can follow up. I know I wasn't able to capture them all. And as soon as this Zoom goes away, you're going to lose a lot of them. But I think we'll make sure, to make sure that we get these resources out to folks. So don't feel super panicked if you miss something along the way. We'll make sure that everybody who was here today is able to get that as a follow-up. And if you got any other questions, let us know. And Tony, do you want to end us off?
Yes, I've been doing all kinds of things in the background, so hopefully it's running smoothly-ish. Yeah, just thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for those of you who stepped out in courage and shared your journey and made some asks. And thank you all so much for all the resources, information, all the wonderful and amazing stuff that was shared. Like Emily said, we will send a follow-up email, which is our typical practice after all of our events, is to send a follow-up email with all the links, as well as a link to the recording. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Claire and Emily, for hosting this event. Just thank you, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, everyone.
Good to see you all. And
Lovely
feel free to hang out. Feel free to hang